Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
You can see that the rainwater is actually black, also saturated, it appears, with oil.
Trump's war in Iran is bad for the environment and the climate.
The Middle East is a main source of nitrogenous fertilizer for farmers here in the U.S. These fertilizers are used primarily on crops that are planted in the spring, like corn.
War in the Middle East is also disrupting global fertilizer supplies. Plus,
what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Nome.
Kristi Noem fired as DHS secretary, but FEMA remains a disaster.
All of those disasters and probably more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
So he's saying, hey, guys, we get the oil. I'm still going to insure your ships. So go through the strait. Sow some guts and go through that strait.
You go through that strait, Brian Kilmeade, sitting on the couch at Fox News in New York. Very courageous. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, so everything I hear is going very, very well in the Middle East.
Well, that's an interesting take on it. Donald Trump's war on Iran has quickly escalated into a broader regional conflict. Iran's effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of the world's oil and gas is transported, and Iran's retaliatory attacks on oil and gas infrastructure have ground production to a halt in the region.
Who could have predicted it?
Global oil prices skyrocketed over the weekend to more than $100 a barrel before settling back on Monday after Trump said the war is, quote, very complete, pretty much.
I'm sure it is.
Oil prices are still about 40% higher than before Trump attacked Iran, and retail gas prices are still spiking across the U.S. War is also really bad for the environment and climate change. Over the weekend, the Israeli military struck several Iranian oil storage depots around Tehran, triggering massive explosions, thick clouds of toxic smoke, and black, carcinogenic, oily rain falling across the city. Officials warned residents to shelter in place because the oily rain could be contaminated with toxic hydrocarbons and acid rain that can cause chemical burns and lung damage.
Oily rain.
Yes, environmental experts say the oily rain could also cause long-term contamination of water supplies, food, and soil.
Yeah, I guess it could.
Plus, burning all of the oil that was stored in multiple depots also released a huge burst of climate-warming carbon emissions. In addition to the threat to global oil supplies, Middle East nations also depend on desalination for most of their drinking water. Over the weekend, Bahrain accused Iran of damaging one of its desalination plants, though officials say it remained online. Iran said a U.S. airstrike had damaged one of their desalination plants. Experts warn that destabilizing the region's water supplies by knocking out desalination plants would qualify as a war crime. Here in the U.S., Trump's war on Iran could also hit hard for U.S. farmers because the Middle East is also one of the world's most critical suppliers of fertilizer. The war has already sent global fertilizer prices soaring ahead of the critical spring planting season, raising concerns for higher food prices. But for Americans struggling with rising costs for energy and food, Republican Congressman Mark Alford of Missouri has a message.
Whether you want to call it a war or not, we are putting energy, resources, money into this. It is going to take a little bit of a sacrifice on the part of Americans.
Why? Why do I have to sacrifice?
In other news, over the weekend, deadly tornadoes tore across the Midwest. For Michigan, it was an unusually early onset of spring weather turbulence. Michigan saw its earliest EF3 tornado ever recorded. Tornadoes in the upper Midwest are rare, but statistics indicate tornadoes are forming in more unusual places more frequently, linked to global warming. Donald Trump fired Kristi Noem from her position as DHS secretary.
Sad.
Noem caused enormous damage to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, slashing staffing levels and pausing most disaster funding, leading to extensive delays for disaster recovery. We'll see if Noem's apparent successor, Republican Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, if confirmed, continues to dismantle FEMA. And finally, the Trump administration held a high-profile oil and gas lease sale in Alaska late last week and got no takers. Literally, 0 companies bid for the chance to drill in the harsh environment off the coast of Alaska, despite new extra-low royalty rates. It is the second failed Arctic offshore lease sale in a row.
Also sad. Drill, baby, drill. You can make oily rain. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the social medias, especially Blue Sky at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Oh, the board didn't want to respond for a second there. Let a little hiccup on the monitor. Hey, kids, it's Monday. It's Monday. We had a long weekend. First, appreciate all of you who reached out about my birthday. Thank you very much. You guys were very, very kind. Some donations came in. I mean, humbled once again. All I can say is I'm going to try. Scotty and I are going to try our best to live up to your expectations of the show. You see value there. We're going to try to continue to provide that value. Thank you so much. And to anybody who wants to think about donating any amount, no matter how small, whatever you can do would be amazing. We are a team. Just go to brettbreaksthings.com, hit the donate button there. Yeah, I had a great weekend. I had a great birthday. I got to go to my stepdaughter's field days where I was called cringe. So in the face of this accusation, I began singing. She loved it. The Americans, they delivered a little birthday present, beating the Dominican Republic last night, 2-1 in the World Baseball Classic. I talk about shared experiences sometimes on this show, and anytime you put the American flag on a sports jersey or a competitive uniform of any kind, that's something we all can get behind, period, unequivocally. It's a beautiful thing, and we were all behind our boys, and they beat the greatest batting lineup ever assembled at any level at any time in the Dominicans. There are legit 5 Hall of Famers on that Dominican lineup we beat last night. Just amazing. Just amazing. Awesome. A lot has developed over the weekend. So we're going to catch up on the war here today. I do want to say one of the things I did over the weekend for my birthday, some friends took me out to a comedy show. It was awesome. They were hilarious. 2 openers, and Jeff Hostetler, he was the main attraction. He was awesome. All 3 of them were really, really funny. And they were woke as hell. And it was beautiful. And the crowd was woke as hell. And we really enjoyed it. He did say one thing that was shocking, and it turned out, I looked it up later, it turned out to be true. They did this give and take from the audience, and one of the questions the audience asked Jeff was, do you think we're at war to distract from the Epstein files? And he handled it in very comedic fashion. It was funny, but he said one thing. He said, yes, this is effective. Searches on the Epstein file have gone down 86%. is what he claimed there at the show. And it was something, as I did the best fact-checking I could on that, he seemed to be correct as far as I could find. 86% down searches of the Epstein files since the war began. That was a shocking figure to me. That was a shocking figure. So, we also are going to move on from the Epstein files for now, because we've done what we promised, which is bring you Epstein-related stuff as it is important enough to do so. And we've been doing that. But right now, we have too much to catch up on in this war over the last 3 days. Just too much. Let's start with 6 more service members dead. 6 crew members of the KC-135 refueling craft have been killed. 2 KC-35s, they're refueling crafts. They apparently, we've been told, had some kind of incident. 1 landed safely, 1 crashed, the entire crew perished. Now, CENTCOM is telling us the crash followed an unspecified incident involving 2 aircraft in friendly airspace that the other plane landed safely. That's what CENTCOM is telling us. I'm not going to spend a ton of time theorizing, but if that's not what happened, if they are lying to us, this is what they'd be telling us, something like this. Just putting it out there. If they no longer want to admit that something a little more nefarious or combative happened, this is the type of thing we'd be hearing. But I also think that somebody would take credit immediately for downing a KC-135. So I'm going to go ahead and believe them for now. They stressed it was not due to anything hostile. It was friendly. It was a friendly incident. A friendly incident. They won't say exactly what happened. They won't say. So this comes on the heels of 3 U.S. fighter jets downed in suspicious circumstances in Kuwait. That makes 4 aircraft down. 5 involved in an incident. Now the KC-135 does mid-air refueling. A lot of you in the military know exactly what that is. Most of you do, right? Refuel mid-air. You can extend the length of a mission for a plane on a bombing run or whatever, transport, whatever it is. They can go much farther if they refuel. It seems obvious. This particular model also evacuated wounded and did surveillance missions. It was multifaceted. But it was old. This particular model has been in service for 60 years. 60 years. And they do already have its replacement. It's called a KC-468, a KC-468 Pegasus. And they were planning on phasing out the KC-135 in favor of the Pegasus, I guess just not fast enough. Good thing we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on lobster tail and ribeye. No money available to step up the transition to the Pegasus and possibly save some lives. I keep circling back to this. How could I not? Of course I keep circling back to that. I'm going to continue. I mean, so many ways we could have spent that money to further the efforts that we are right now engaged in. Whether I want us to be there or not, we are there. You could have spent so much of that money ensuring U.S. service members' lives abroad. You could have. You didn't. You got designer chairs, the most expensive iPad, lobster tail, ribeye, and a beautiful sushi table. Instead. Couldn't refit the Avengers, the greatest anti-mine laying vessels we had. Couldn't refit those, advance those. Had to bring in an ineffective model to replace them. And now ships are getting blown up in the Strait. We could have spent that money so much more wisely. Anyway, so this particular model, the KC-135, it had a co-pilot, a pilot, a boom operator, sometimes nurses, sometimes technicians. This one had 6 people aboard. And like I said, this has been in service for 60 years, and it has had its share of fatal accidents. Its share. The most recent one was in 2013. One of them crashed after takeoff from Kyrgyzstan. That was during our Afghanistan conflict. That was the most recent. Killed three people in that crash. The most severe crash was in 1966 when a KC-135 accidentally crashed into a B-52 bomber over Spain. And that bomber had nuclear bombs on board, which crashed to the earth. Some of the explosive elements in the bomb did detonate, and it caused us to have a massive cleanup effort abroad. So it's had its fair share of accidents. And yet we just had to ship them out, fly them out for more missions in this particular theater, and now crew members are dead. 6 of them. Major John Cleaner, 33. Captain Ariana Savino, 31. Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, 34. Captain Seth Koval, 38. Captain Curtis Angst, 30. And Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons, 28. All babies, all young. All young. Cut short. Could it have been avoided? Could it have been avoided? 60 years that plane had been in service. 60 years. Several crashes. Several, red flags. Could that have been avoided? I'm not going to go hard at how dare you, Hegseth, how dare you, Trump. I know these kind of decisions on what planes get used, what munitions get used when and how. I know these go through chains of command, multiple levels of decision making to get to where it gets. But is it fair to ask the question, could those lives have been saved had other decisions been made? Decisions that might have been made on the basis of money? Money that was spent on lobster tails and ribeyes and sushi tables. So, Trump's in it. He's in it here. How deep in it is he? How deep in it are we? Trump right now is in what's called an escalation trap. That's what some people are describing it as, an escalation trap. Why? He is working so hard to help break up this Persian Gulf oil jam. He's working so hard. And the more it fails, the more his bigly, strongly words fail, and he's got other efforts that he's undertaking right now that we will absolutely get into. What is he doing about this Strait of Hormuz situation? Well, the more he does and the less successful his measures are, the more likely it is we will be there longer with boots on the ground. He cannot allow Iran to dictate this conflict by cutting off oil at the Strait of Hormuz. He can't allow it because they will dictate our level of commitment, our length of engagement. It won't be our decision. It's turning out to be the Iranians' decision. Okay? His bigly, strongly words are not working out. One Trump administration official told Axios' Mark Caputo, quote, the Iranians bleeping around with the strait makes Trump more dug in. That is from an administration official. They are confirming that he is as dug in as the Iranians want him to be. Force him to be. Being forced by Israel to get into this conflict and being forced by Iran to either elongate it or flee is not bigly. That is Middle Eastern heavyweights pushing Don around. I know thousands of Iranians are dying. Headquarters are getting blown up. They are decimating their missile production, decimating their missile batteries, decimating their ability to strike our Middle Eastern allies. They are, but there's so much more at play. Like Israel's desires. They keep saying we want regime change. They keep saying it after Mujtaba has been named the new supreme leader. That means this isn't the regime change that Israel or Don were looking for. They're not satisfied. They don't want Mujtaba back in charge. And now Israel's putting boots on the ground in Lebanon, and they're calling for more destruction in Lebanon. Other forces dictating Don's involvement.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Looking for Washington, D.C.'s most glamorous entertainment venue? Look no further than Donald Trump's Jeffrey Epstein Memorial Ballroom. At the Jeffrey Epstein Memorial Ballroom, we specialize in middle school dances, sweet 16 parties, quinceañeras, beauty pageants, foam parties, and so much more. The Epstein Ballroom is Washington's beautiful secret. 90,000 square feet of gold, glitter, and class. Make your event magical with the Epstein Ballroom's Diddy Baby Oil Flume. Join DJ TJ as he DJs all ages shows. And this Christmas season, you can sit on Santa Donnie's lap. Say goodbye to 123 years of history and say hello to the Donald Trump Epstein Memorial Ballroom. At the Donald Trump Jeffrey Epstein Memorial Ballroom, every day is a wonderful secret.
It doesn't matter what happens in this Republican runoff. We already know who we're running against. The billionaire mega donors and their corrupt political system. Not any one politician, not any one political party. We are running against the broken system and the powerful people who broke it. They're scared of the movement we are building. They're going to throw everything they have at us. They're going to call me a radical leftist. They're going to call me a fake Christian. They'll call our movement un-Texan, un-American. They'll call us a threat. The only truth is we are a threat. We're a threat to their corrupt system. 2,000 years ago, when the powerful few at the top hurt those at the bottom, that barefoot rabbi didn't stay in his room and pray. He walked into the seat of power and flipped over the tables of injustice. To those who love this state, to those who love this country, to those who love our neighbors, it's time to start flipping tables. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being in this fight. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Brett Breaks Things, where the stakes are high and the truth still matters.
The Iranians right now are playing defense. They're playing rope-a-dope. They just want to survive this. They want to survive this. They want everybody to think twice before doing this again, right? They want to make everybody think twice. They want to impose pain. They want to impose unpopularity domestically. They want to slam you with higher oil prices, make it hurt, right? And they want to cost you soldiers if they can, and they are a little, right? They want to make this as painful as possible, and they just need to survive. They've had their civilian population decimated before. They've had their military installations blown up before. They've had their oil production disrupted before. If they just survive this, that will be their win. That will be their win. Now, Trump has set a timeline of 4 to 6 weeks at the beginning of this engagement. Well, we're pulling up on week 3. Let's put a pin on April Fool's Day. That will be about when he has estimated we will be done here. Well, Axios has been told by 3 officials specifically, okay, and great reporting, Mark Caputo, Barack Ravid, and others, Jim Vanderhyde, Mike Allen. I'm leaning on some of their reporting out of Axios. I love Axios. 3 administration officials have told Barack Ravid that they believe the instability in the Middle East and U.S. involvement could continue until maybe September. Even if the war shifts to a low-intensity conflict, Okay. Don't say the quiet part out loud, fellas. You mean continue and bump up against the midterms, right? I mean, if we're in it till September, that is long past that discretionary period our president gets for engagements. That's a war. You're there till September? You drag in 20% of all the countries in the world? That's a war. And during war, well, the president is afforded certain powers. We may not get to vote in November if we're still there in September with no clear end in sight. Okay. Be careful, fellas or ladies or whoever's within the administration saying these things. You might slip up and say the quiet part out loud. You might slip up. Now, Israel has said now that they're looking at least 3 more weeks of conflict with Iran. At least. That's 3 more from now. That blows past Don's timeline. And we have already seen how much pressure Bibi has been able to apply to Trump in his decision-making. Okay? And the Iranians are saying, even if Trump pulls out tomorrow, and they have said this, even if Trump pulls out tomorrow, we will not stop the missile attacks on your allies. We might hit the oil infrastructure of your allies in Oman and other places, Azerbaijan, other places. They said we would have to continue strangling the strait and attacking you until we get guarantees that this is the end of the conflict, not some ceasefire or disengagement for now. Let's see how it goes. They said we're going to keep doing this until we get a guarantee that this is the end of it. And I promise you their guarantee at that point, should we be forced to come to the table, will not include all the demands that we were floating before in the negotiations, demands like no enrichment above 6%, right? The total dismantling of your nuclear warhead program and other fun ones. They will not agree to that should we have to come begging for them to reopen the strait. There is regret within the administration. These same administration officials that are talking to Axios, they said more. They said things like, Trump right now has a bit of buyer's remorse. Yep. One source said key officials around Trump were reluctant and wanted more time before they attacked. Quote, he ended up saying, I just want to do it. He grossly overestimated his ability to topple the regime short of sending in ground troops. He didn't know what he was talking about. He was told differently by his generals, by his advisors, and he just wanted to do it anyway. That's bigly and strongly. That's bigly and strongly. One source said Trump was high on his own supply. After last summer's quick strikes in Iran and January's abduction of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, quote, he saw multiple decisive quick victories with extraordinary military competence, so he figured he'd get more of the same. All right, let's get real straight on where we are right now and his decision making. Where we are right now. We have been successful at decimating their missile launching and their drone making capabilities. We have air superiority. We have air superiority with Israel to bomb at will. We could bomb all over their region. Yep. Most of Iran's navy is underwater. He's not lying when he says we have decimated their navy. That's not a lie. We have. We absolutely have. The Ayatollah Khomeini is killed. Mushtaba's got a crosshair on his forehead. But the Ayatollah has been killed. That is a success for Israel and the Trump administration. And the death toll, right now it's 13, 104 wounded, 8 of them severely wounded. That's where we are right now. Those could have been way worse. And even General Dan Cain told Trump it would be worse than that. He was warned it would be worse than that. So that, although absolutely tragic and should never have happened, that is better than expectations. And that's all I'll say on that. However, he is not going to get his quick victory. It is increasingly looking like he's going to put boots on the ground, okay? If he pulled out now in any facet, it would be very hard to convince the American people that you have a victory, especially if Iran is still controlling the strait. Okay? He's talking about making a deal with Iran. We've already won. Now we just want to sit down and make them hammer out, a deal on how they will behave going forward, because we've already won, says Trump. We've already won. But he said that Iran is totally defeated and wants a deal, but not a deal I would accept. Well, it turns out because of the chaos within the upper echelons of the supreme leadership and Mujtaba himself, because of the chaos in the supreme leadership right now, there has been no deal making. There has been no contact between Mujtaba and the administration, or a spokesperson for Mujtaba and a spokesperson for the administration. It is complete chaos. They have not even begun to think about hammering out any kind of deal. So when he says that, he's lying. Again. If Mujtaba survives this, if we are done with this engagement, no matter how long or how short it is, if Mujtaba Khomeini survives this, he won. Remember that. If I know that, and you know that, Trump certainly knows that. Is this what we want? Us failing in different areas. And I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you more failures of this administration in terms of how they've conducted this war. I'm going to give you more. The list is longer. Failures by this administration and Pete Hegseth. Is that what I want as a liberal or a progressive or a Democrat? Because I keep getting accused of wanting us to lose this war, but it's not a war. It's an engagement. It's what was the other word we got? There was a new word. It was an excursion. Thank you. Do I want us to lose this excursion / engagement / military operation / war? No. Nobody wants us to lose anything or lose lives. Nobody wants the Iranian supreme leadership stronger or in a position of strength. Yes, Trump overstepped Congress again to get to this war. Yes, he lied to us about why we're there. Yes, he has once again destabilized the Middle East. Yes, oil prices are spiking. Yes, civilians are dying. Service members are dying, but we are there. We're there. If we have a chance to eliminate the supreme leadership, which has oppressed and murdered and funded proxies who have oppressed and murdered, if we can make that not a thing anymore in Iran, then that's a good thing. Do many Iranians want that to happen, for the supreme leadership to be unseated? Yes. What if we can get an Iranian government that wants to work with the rest of the world in good faith for the betterment of the world? Is that even a possibility? Is that what I would want? Yes. Do I want the U.S. to be unsuccessful? No.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. They said he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. You say during the war you can't have elections. So let me just say 3.5 years from now. So you mean if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections?
The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting.
Maybe we should. Maybe we do one more term. Should we do one more term? Do one more term.
Sir, are you considering a national emergency? Are you considering a national emergency around the midterm elections?
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more. I won't say cancel the election. They should cancel the election because the fake news will say, he wants the elections canceled. He's a dictator. They always call me a dictator.
But sometimes you need a dictator.
You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
Let me be even more clear. I do not think we should be there. I do not think we should be there. I don't agree with the lies that they gave us for being there, and I do not think we should be there now, especially in the face of Iranian capitulation at the end of those negotiations, where they came to the table a couple times just before Witkoff and Kushner said they're unreasonable. Just before that little declaration by our special envoys, they were coming to the table and their percentage of enrichment was coming down. The amount of, weaponization of the nuclear warheads was coming down. An agreement on possibly the payload that was already, preserved after our June strikes. They were coming to the table. This was absolutely unavoidable, and we should not be there. But I do not have the green infinity gem. I can't sit here like Doctor Strange and turn it back and make everybody go backwards and make Trump change his decision-making. I can't do that. So what is Trump's plan for getting us the hell out of here? What is Trump's plan for the Strait of Hormuz? That will get us out of here. We get something done there. We get some kind of stabilization there. That will be our ticket out. Short of killing Mujtaba, are they going to demand that they take him out as part of this operation? Are they going to lie to us, shift their messaging, shift their narrative once again to say, you know what, we were telling you that, there was this 2-week window before they start nuking everybody, and we were telling you how close they were to a militarization of their nuclear facilities. We were telling you that, but honestly, really, American people, it's about this guy Mujtaba. He's got to die. Are they willing to take the unpopular hit once again of changing their messaging and changing their reasoning to ensure that he dies? That could get messy. That could take forever. Could he use the Strait of Hormuz as a backdoor out of here? Stabilization of the Strait, stabilization of the oil market. Could that be a backdoor out of here for Trump? What's he doing about it? Okay, what's he doing about it? This is what he's doing about it. 2 things. 1, he is trying to get a coalition of countries that all have a stake in the oil flow through the Strait of Hormuz. He's trying to get a coalition of countries together to do something about the strait. What that something is, we don't know exactly. But, without something being done with the strait, he can't pull out. He can't get out of this. We are stuck. As long as the Iranians control the Strait of Hormuz and strangle the oil production and the oil market, we cannot leave. Know that very clearly. So he's getting this coalition of countries together, all right? And he's talking about it. He said on a Truth Social post, the U.S. and several other countries will send warships to the Gulf to reopen commercial shipping. He called on China, France, Japan, South Korea, and the U.K. for help in that post. We'll get to China in a second. That's a funny little country to call out in conjunction with these other countries, isn't it? One of these things aren't like the other. Why China? Why are you calling out China? Oh, well, there's reasons. On Sunday, aboard Air Force One, Trump, he talked to reporters. He talked to reporters about a lot of things. But he said he demands that NATO countries and other oil importing nations, including China, help the U.S. secure the strait. We are talking to other countries about policing the straits. It will be nice to have other countries policing it with us. We will help. We are getting a good response. He said the U.S. is in talk with 7 countries and mentioned some have already declined. He said the mission will be small because Iran has very little firepower left. Yeah, so little firepower that they're forcing your hand to go begging other countries to help you. That's how little firepower they have, right, Don? How bigly, strongly, and quickly is our Navy if they can't handle the very little firepower from the Iranians? Just curious. So, he spent he and some of his administration officials spent time on the phone talking about protecting the Strait of Hormuz, protecting the oil production and the oil flow through there. Okay, at the end of there, he said, we shouldn't even need it. We shouldn't even be there at all, talking about the Strait of Hormuz in these countries. He said, we shouldn't even need it. We shouldn't even be there at all. Really, Don? We shouldn't even be there at all, huh? Then why the hell are we? Then why are we talking about options that will put boots on the ground? What am I talking about? One of his other solutions to this little oil conundrum. And I'm not sure how this will help our Strait of Hormuz problem. But another thing Don is floating that I swear to you will result in boots on the ground is he wants to take Karg Island. Karg Island. He wants to take it. All right, let's talk about Karg Island. When you're looking at the southern coast of Iran on the Persian Gulf, you've got on the eastern side, just 20 miles off the coast of Iran, you've got Karg Island. Then as you take your finger along the Persian Gulf, you've got the Strait of Hormuz. And then you continue outward to the other portion of Iran along the coast. Karg Island. Karg Island is several hundred miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. Yet in response to this crisis in the Strait, he's saying, I want to seize Karg Island. I want to seize it. Okay? He claims it would be an economic knockout of the regime, essentially defunding Tehran. That's why he says he wants to do it. Okay? Now, Karg Island. A few things you should know about this. It is the main oil export hub for Iran. Okay, 85 to 95% of all Iranian exports go out of this small little island, Karg Island. It's 8 miles in diameter. It's about a third of the size of Manhattan, I believe, but it is extremely important to the Iranian economy. They have on this island massive loading docks that can accommodate the super ships from around the world and load millions of barrels of oil a day out of their gigantic docks, okay? Massive terminals. Also, they have direct pipelines from their oil fields in Iran straight to Karg Island. These pipelines. Okay, that's how dependent they are. So the problem for Iran is if Karg Island is threatened, they may have to completely stop production or find some other way to transport production to their secondary port. It's called Jask. I'll get to it. There's a secondary export hub on the other side of the strait, but their oil fields, they pump too much to use it. So about Karg, another thing about this island, not only do they have the docks to support massive super ships, but they also have huge storage, crude storage tanks. They have farms of these gigantic crude storage tanks with millions of barrels of oil in it. Here's a picture of Karg Island. Thank you, Scotty. There's Karg Island. And you see there's the terminals. There's those farms of oil storage, crude storage that we could just seize all at once. All at once. It's got an airport. It's got the jetty. It's got the docks. It's got the terminal. It's got it all. It's got it all. It also has quick shipping lane access to Europe and Asia. It's perfect. It's perfect. And Don wants it. He wants it. He wants what's in those crude storage farms, and he wants to control the millions of barrels a day coming out of those docks. Millions of barrels. World superpowers all send their largest ships to Karg Island to load. Okay? Iranian officials have said the U.S. has begun striking Karg Island. So far, they confirm the U.S. has only struck military targets. Damn right. You're damn right they have. Why would they start striking the oil production facilities that they're about to take use of? Why would they strike the crude storage farms that they want to steal? No, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't attack the infrastructure and the oil production. Of course they didn't. But yeah, they said they attacked the army. The jetties are okay. The storages are okay. They confirmed that. And they could go to their backup, which is Jask Island. Jask. Okay, that's the other oil terminal on the other side of the strait. That opened up in 2021, but that can only do about 1 million barrels per day. Less than half of what Karg Island does a day. Less than half. And this is, and Iran has said, if you attempt to seize Karg Island, this is what Iran says, if you attempt to seize Karg Island, it will be our red line. We will commit all of our weaponry, all of our munitions in wave after wave of attacks, missile attacks, drone attacks on all of your allies' oil fields, all across the region. We will spare no expense dismantling your oil production in your allies' countries. Period. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard spoke about it. They said, quote, that the oil and energy infrastructure of countries cooperating with the U.S. will be immediately destroyed and reduced to ashes if there is any attack on Iran's energy assets. You want a longer engagement. You want boots on the ground. I give you Karg Island. I'll tell you another thing. Why does he keep shouting out China? Why does he keep calling China out? Okay, China is the number one buyer of Iranian oil. Number one. 13% of all oil imports for China come from Iran. And miraculously, the Iranian flow of oil to China has been unaffected by this escalation and this war in the Strait and in that area in the Persian Gulf. Somehow, China has still received 19 million barrels of oil since the engagement began. That's strange. Wow. So they haven't been affected at all. Here's how this could go with China. I'm going to tell you right now how this could go with China. We'll do the macro. I'm not some Harvard, foreign professor about China, certainly. You know my limitations and what my strong points, but I'll tell you this. The macro I'm pretty good at. And the macro for China right now is either we pressure China or China decides for whatever reason to help us reopen the strait for the betterment of the global oil market. We entice them somehow, or they decide for whatever reason that they want to help us in this effort. Or the other way it could go, which is China already getting special treatment from the Iranians in terms of getting their oil. Right now, still got 19 million barrels since this began. Maybe they take that little relationship a step further, right? Maybe they could continue to help Iran in some ways. Maybe they could provide intelligence, money, arms in some way to help Iran give us the stiff arm as long as they receive preferential treatment. Their oil goes through both ways. We'll see. And that's definitely why Trump is calling them out. But I'm going to tell you right now, this could be like our Iwo Jima. This could be like our modern day Iwo Jima, a strategic little island that we want and they absolutely can't lose. A lot of you military buffs out there, you know how Iwo Jima went down, how many deaths. It was a meat grinder. It was a horror. If we absolutely got to have it, and they absolutely can't live without it, I think both sides would be willing to, commit to troops on the ground, an invasion force, to hold the facilities, to hold the coastline just 20 miles off of the facilities. Yeah, I think we would. All our other strategies right now are failing. If Trump thinks this is a death blow to the Iranians, get ready for boots on the ground at Karg Island.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break.
Here's the legal point I want to ask you. Gina says, so the quote-unquote missing files drop. These interviews were conducted to build a case against Jeffrey Epstein and used to convict Ghislaine Maxwell. So they are credible. They describe in full detail what Trump did to a 14-year-old child. Read them. If you still support him, I don't want to know you. Can you explain that if someone's interviewed 4 times and they are used credibly in a case to convict someone, this is not some salacious allegation, right?
Yeah, we don't interview incredible witnesses 4 times. It would be a waste of, time and resources. So when you say used in the Ghislaine Maxwell case or the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, I'm not sure whether there were any charges related to this particular victim that were part of those cases. But, it's obvious that the FBI took these allegations seriously, and it sounds like they were investigating them with a view toward charging whomever, and for whatever reason, that all kind of fell apart. But listen, Operation Epstein Fury has failed to distract. I mean, I don't see the drumbeat slowing down any, and I know the survivors are not slowing down or getting any quieter. So I think, I think it's going to continue to come out. I think it's all going to end up with a lawsuit that sees a judge ordering that all of the Epstein files go to an independent special master so we can actually get the transparency that the law requires.
You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
All these things that are playing out, Trump was told specifically by his generals and his advisors this is what would happen. And he didn't care. Okay? He believed that Tehran would capitulate much quicker than they have. Much quicker. And he thought they would never try to close the strait. And he thought if they did, we could stop them. That's what he thought. Well, Wall Street Journal did some great reporting. As administration officials are telling us exactly what the generals told him, exactly how many people they thought would be killed, exactly how likely they thought boots on the ground would be, how long they thought this engagement would be, how many casualties, how much collateral damage would accrue as a result. The Iranian retaliation, they knew it. They saw it. Civilian deaths in allied nations, strikes on oil infrastructure, dead Americans. They knew it. They told him. Even Kane's spokesman is saying what Kane said. This guy, Joe Holstead, he's one of the spokesmen for General Dan Kane. He said Kane gave Trump a full spectrum of military options, along with precise and thoughtful consideration of the secondary effects, implications, and risks associated with each option. What does Carolyn Levitt say about that? The Pentagon has been planning for Iran's desperate and reckless closure of the Strait of Hormuz for decades. Then why have they been doing it so damn successfully? Just curious, Carolyn. Would you like to answer that? You've been planning for this for decades, and they have been this damn successful? They've completely got you on the ropes. She went on to say, quite literally, our operation is intended to deprive them of their ability to close the strait. And yet they closed it anyway, Carolyn. You have not successfully taken away their ability to close the strait. They have closed it anyway. Pete Hegseth said, this is sheer desperation. We've been dealing with it, and we don't need to worry about it. Well, the oil markets disagree with you, Pete. Everybody disagrees with you. Administration officials disagree with you. The media disagrees with you, and the American people disagree with you. We're all worried about it. How about that, Pete? We're all worried about it, even though you just told us not to be. Okay. And what does Trump say? What does Trump say? We've won. Oh, yeah, listen to this guy. We've won. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. Okay, so what he is saying is Trump has decided that we won the war. But should Iran try to disrupt the oil through the Strait of Hormuz, he might reconsider saying we've won. What world does this dude live in? What fantasy land? How demented is he actually? What do you mean if Iran or somebody else should decide? They are doing it. If you've won, why are we still there? And they are right now strangling the Strait of Hormuz. What do you mean if they should? Crazy. Chris Murphy had a classified meeting with Dan Kane and came out of that meeting saying this. They had no plan to address the crisis in the Strait. He continued, the fact that these guys didn't have a plan ahead of time and a week into the war still don't have a plan, it's pretty damn shocking. That's what we thought, Chris. Thanks for confirming. They have no idea what they're doing. How do I know they have no idea what they're doing? They have no plan to evacuate U.S. citizens. None. Their plan to get the Kurds on board, the Iranian Kurds over on the eastern border, the plan to get them on board has completely failed. Completely failed. They don't trust the administration. They don't have the experience. They don't have the money, and they don't have the weapons. You failed. Great planning on that front. You failed taking out the supreme leadership. You probably strengthened their resolve, killing Ayatollah Khomeini, Ali Khamenei, and installing Mujtaba. You've probably strengthened the supreme leadership's resolve, even though scores of them are dead. Believe me, they've got more. You failed. The DHS is currently shut down right now as Democrats and Republicans are squabbling over ICE's practices, which they should be brought to everybody's attention. But because of this fight right now, I told you the optics were going to start to suck on it because now our cybersecurity is taking a hit. In the face of Iranian hackers and any type of domestic terrorism or violence at home, our cybersecurity apparatus is dismantled right now because of the shutdown. The strait is completely closed. Polling shows the American people hate this war and do not trust you. All of your allies are running to Fox News and other outlets like Newsmax and AON, and they're trying to very delicately and politely tell you to de-escalate and get out. Your administration officials are admitting you have buyer's remorse. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Iranian regime is going strong. They are completely in control of whatever's left of their military infrastructure, the command, their, whatever military, ships, military installations, ammunition, missile batteries, anything that is left, they are in complete control. It may not be as chaotic as our intelligence officials are saying it is. Khomeini himself, Mujtaba Khomeini himself has said, we will continue to strangle the strait for the foreseeable future. He came right out and said it. He said, he's the one who said, even if you pull out right now, we don't believe you. And we're going to keep doing this till you come back crawling for us to reopen it with a guarantee you will end this conflict for good on our terms. That is what Mujtaba Khomeini is promising to the world. Not just his people and the American government, This little tug of war is global. It is globally accessible. We all see Trump being less than bigly, strongly, and quickly compared to the resolve, apparently, of the Iranian regime. Even in the face of all the casualties and all the destruction and the destruction of their navy, they are in control of their country. That little uprising that you were banking on, it doesn't seem to be coming to fruition. Ahmadinejad not being seen in public. The Shah's son won't step foot in the country. Mushtaba's in control. And now our allies in the region are getting bombed, drone attacked, missile attacked. Not just military installations, but hotels and airports and residential areas. We couldn't stop it. We either didn't know the extent to which the Iranians were going to retaliate, or we didn't care about how much death happens in the UAE and Oman and Azerbaijan and anywhere else. We just didn't care. We either absolutely underestimated the Iranian retaliation, or we absolutely did not care. This is my problem. This is my problem with our current war, excursion, military operation, conflict. This is my problem with it. You lied to us about why you got in it. You shouldn't be there. And now you are failing on multiple fronts. You are failing us. As as Pete goes running to Congress asking for more money for this war, and as Don is asking us to up the budget for the military from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion, what does it matter what the number is if you're going to screw everything up this badly, be this unprepared? Do I want the U.S. to be failing on so many fronts? No. I don't want that. I want a clear, reasonable, objective, achieve it, or get the hell out. That's what I want. Tell us what you really want from the region. Don't break and violate every single international law created doing it, and get the hell out of there. You shouldn't be there in the first place. Give me an exit strategy, Trump. And instead, he's doing the same. And speaking of international law, what did Pete say this week? This guy. He said, quote, "No quarter, no mercy for our enemies." Oh, do I have that clip? Thank you, Scotty. Oh, here we go. Is it the... Yeah. I think this is it.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard
Okay, I got to stop him there. That was a different clip. I did want you to hear that, though, as he attacks the media, talks about, I can't wait till Larry Ellison buys CNN, which he's looking to do. But among the things he said at that little presser, he said, "No quarter, no mercy for our enemies." No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Okay. Well, international law explicitly forbids declaring that no quarter will be given or threatening to fight any type of conflict on those bases. That is directly against international law. Period. It is treated the same as targeting a wounded soldier or a soldier that is surrendering. And legal experts are exploding on social media, Twitter, other places, okay, telling everybody that any order resembling no quarter is patently illegal. Patently. Why? Because since the Civil War's Lieber Code, it's the code we use which governs how armies fight engagements. It's the code we've been using forever. It's the code the Hague and the Geneva Convention and other U.S. protocols is all based on. specifically forbids no quarter. It is illegal. We are not allowed to conduct our wars that way. We could hear from multiple law professors on this, but we're going to hear from New York University law professor Ryan Goodman on this. He said the defense secretary is putting the American military on track to lawlessness in which we will lose more and more allies. The best thing Hegseth can do for the country and for the U.S. military is to say he misspoke and retract his statement. It's one of the reasons the United States ensured Germany's senior military officials were prosecuted for their crimes after World War II. He said the Pentagon's Law of War Manual states unequivocally that such statements are war crimes. Boom. Thank you, Ryan Goodman. Thank you. This is why Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin and other lawmakers, ex-military, got out on that video and said, do not follow illegal orders. It's crap like this. And don't forget, Pete Hegseth is out here saying no quarter in front of admirals and generals talking about, oh, no more bothersome rules of engagement, while we are responsible for the death of 177 children in a school. And regardless of all the lies that are floating around about that strike, I think we talked about it accurately here on Brett Breaks Things. It was the result of a lack of U.S. intelligence. They missed it. They made a mistake. They were looking at old satellite images. They should have been getting updated images of that naval base. They would have seen that the school was partitioned off from the base. They would have seen soccer fields and playgrounds. They would have seen these things had they spent the time to do their due diligence, and those lives could have been saved. It was our fault. Our intelligence has failed us and failed those children and their families. But he's talking about no quarter given, no more rules of engagement. That is a war crime. Hi, Mom. See you tomorrow.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.